Finally, Spurs seem to have got their act together and identified a player that Thomas Frank wants, who actively wants to move to Tottenham and who isn't under lock and key by a mad Greek mafia boss. Late last night, Fabrizio Romano broke the news that Tottenham have identified who they want as Son Heung-min's replacement, and it's a Manchester City and Brazilian wonderkid. I'll bring you the latest news on that, as well as numerous other reports of exciting young talent that Tottenham are in talks with as the transfer window gets ever closer to slamming shut. All this and more on today's episode of Daily Tottenham Transfer News. Guys, thank you so much for watching or listening wherever you are. Please do give this video a like if you're on YouTube. Please do press subscribe to the channel for daily Tottenham Hotspur transfer news throughout this window and press that notification bell so you see whenever my content drops. All right, guys, let's get straight into it, though. Late last night, Sunday, it was about 11 p.m. and Fabrizio Romano and then this morning, David Ornstein have broken that Tottenham have opened club-to-club talks with Manchester City to sign their wing wizard, Savinho. Negotiations are ongoing between Spurs and City, but Savinho is open to the move if the clubs can agree a fee. Tottenham boss Thomas Frank indicated he sees Savinho as his ideal player. Concrete talks have started. The player is open to the move. Man City do not want Savinho to leave. However, if a very big offer comes in, it could happen. And Ornstein said this morning that City are not actively looking to sell Savinho, but 50 million euros is on the table from Spurs and it's being discussed. The 21-year-old is open to the move and Pep Guardiola tends not to block deals when the player wants out. Now, for me, Savinho, very exciting, incredibly direct winger, can play on the left or the right, tends to favour the right, cutting onto his left-hand side, which leads a lot of us, I think, in the Spurs community already from the tweets I've been seeing this morning to wonder, is he likely to start on the right if he were to join Spurs and push, while we've got injuries to James Maddison and Dejan Kulusevski, push Mohamed Kudus potentially into that 10 role? Or will it be as simple as we have Kudus on the right and then we start Savinho on the left in what would be an incredibly pacey wide forward line with the likes of Matthias Tell, Brennan Johnson and Wilson Odobert as backups? Let's go into Savinho's stats. Last season, 48 appearances for Manchester City, 3 goals, 8 assists. It was 21 starts and 6 sub-appearances in the league. So 27 appearances total, 1 goal, 8 assists. So obviously his goal numbers need to improve. However, looking from afar, because obviously I'm not a Man City fan, so I don't watch all of their games, but looking from afar, it seemed to me like their signing of Jeremy Doku was really what got in the way of Savinho. And of course, Manchester City just always blessed with an unbelievably deep squad. In the Champions League last season, 9 appearances, 1 goal, 1 assist, 86.3% passing accuracy, 38 dribbles, 67 kilometers total distance, and 10 ball recoveries. Let me know what you think of Savinho in the comments below. I remember watching him against Spurs and just being absolutely scared witless by his directness. Loves to front a man up, often slipping the ball through his legs to get around him or running in the other way around, just incredibly pacey. And I can see why a player with a World Cup coming up in a year's time, he's a Brazilian international, why he may fear he doesn't get enough starts at Manchester City. And a move to a club where they're in the Champions League like Spurs, but who can also say to him, you will be our main man in that position. You will be our main starting option as a wide forward. You could see why he might be interested in that. Also, today is the day that Crystal Palace find out their decision from the Court of Arbitration for Sport as to whether they are demoted to the Conference League or will be playing as they should be, because they won the FA Cup, in the Europa League. That decision gets made today, and that, I think, will go a long way to deciding which of their players do leave the club this summer. And Fabrizio Romano also said last night that Eberechi Eze has always been on Tottenham's list, so he remains of interest. I actually don't know. Let me know what you think. I'd be really intrigued. I don't know whether if Palace win their appeal and play in the Europa League, that means their best players like Guéhi, Wharton and Eze would more likely stay, or whether if they lost the appeal, they would more likely stay. I can't work out whether basically it's a budgetary thing, and of course you get more money for playing in the Europa League than in the Conference League, or whether it's almost like a reputational or ego thing where the players would more likely stay if they were in the Europa League than the Conference League. It's quite a confusing one. But Steve Parish, after they won the Charity Shield yesterday, and Crystal Palace played brilliantly, I have to say, I'll say it again, Oliver Glasner is an incredibly impressive manager. In that second half yesterday, Palace really took it to Liverpool. They didn't just kind of sit off. They really took it to them. But Steve Parish did say in an interview afterwards, is it more likely now you've won the Charity Shield, or do days like this make it more likely that those players will stay at the club? And he said, look, football clubs are a life cycle and players come and go. And he's very realistic about that. And I'm impressed with Steve Parish as well. I hope today that Crystal Palace win their appeal. It would be a good one to have a go at Nottingham Forest fans about, because Nottingham Forest have really done the dirty on Crystal Palace. They actually sent a legal team to that CAS hearing on Friday. I mean, Marinakis will stop at nothing just to wind people up. But I hope Palace win it, and then it'll be interesting to see what happens with Eze and Gay and maybe even Adam Wharton. Okay, some more reports of potential signings for Spurs. Tottenham set to make an offer for Galatasaray forward Baris Alper Yilmaz, 25 years old, scored 14 goals and provided 6 assists last season in 48 appearances, 32 in the Turkish Super League, and then 9 appearances, 1 goal and 2 assists in the Europa League. He played 2,615 minutes, a goal involvement 0.52 per 90, 12.15 expected goals total, and 54 shots with 31 on target, so 57.4% shot accuracy. With just less than 3 weeks left of the window, Spurs are now really ramping up who they want to get in. All the reports coming from within the club is that they are still confident they will have a successful transfer window. It's just been a matter of being patient. Now, of course, there's a frustration to that. It's the Super Cup final in 2 days' time. And of course, Thomas Frank is being hamstrung, basically, by the fact that he doesn't have anywhere near the squad that he wants going into the start of the Premier League and the Super Cup on Wednesday. But also, he's had terrible injuries as well to deal with. So I'll be really fascinated to see who we start on Wednesday. Jack Grealish, another report that he is pushing to join Spurs instead of Everton because he wants to continue to play at the elite level, although a move to Everton hasn't been ruled out. It's looking right now that he's more likely to go to Everton on loan. It's, again, like I was saying with Savinho, a World Cup year, so he cannot be rotting on the Manchester City bench. But, of course, his wages, £300,000 a week. Be interesting to see if Everton get that. I think Spurs will be looking at the Grealish situation. All the reports are that they put a call in last week, but that is one that I think would only happen probably very late in the window if Spurs couldn't get any of their other targets, one of whom is Liverpool's Harvey Elliott. He came on yesterday and missed a penalty in the Champions League shootout. They're stepping up talks to potentially sign Harvey Elliott. Spurs happy to meet Liverpool's demands, apparently, although some reports that they are asking for a buyback clause, Liverpool. And I'll tell you right now, Daniel Levy would not accept putting a buyback clause in there. I really don't think so. He did that with Sergio Reguilon. And do you remember the first couple of years when it looked like Reguilon was going to be a good player? We were all like, oh, what's the point? Real Madrid just going to buy him back. And then he just dropped off a cliff. But I cannot see Daniel Levy allowing a buyback clause in a bid for a player from an English club. I just can't see that happening. He would be held over a barrel and he wouldn't like it. Spurs also monitoring, apparently, AS Monaco's Mages Akliouche as they look to add creativity, like I said, from in that number 10 position after James Maddison, Decky Kulusevski's injuries. The 23-year-old talent is versatile, technically gifted, very excited young forward. I saw a brilliant goal he scored in pre-season the other day. Last season, he made 43 appearances, scored 7 goals, 12 assists, 32 of those appearances in Liga with 5 goals and 10 assists in the French top flight, and then 10 appearances in the Champions League, 2 goals, 2 assists. So another exciting young talent. As ever, I'll just say, check out some of those clips of some of those players if you want to see what they can really do. But Savinho is definitely the one that is exciting Tottenham fans. And if Spurs can get this one over the line, I think it's the kind of signing that would rival the excitement that we had when it looked like we were getting Morgan Gibbs-White. So watch this space. All right, guys, before I go into some more Spurs news from over the weekend, do give this video a like if you're on YouTube. Please do press that subscribe button and the bell notification button. Also, you can find me on the audio platforms, be that Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Just go over to the search engine, type in the Spurred On podcast, and come and give me a follow or a subscribe and a rating. That would be really helpful. Okay, Thomas Frank has done some interviews, he was asked about Spurs' transfer window so far. He said, we tried to recruit the right players, tried to get to know the team, tried to get all of our principles in. As an example, I was very, very happy with the first half against Arsenal in pre-season, because I think there was a lot of the elements that I want to get into a team, and it looked in sync without being completely free-flowing, but a lot of the principles. So that's a lot of hard work. Then as we go through the transfer window, that's why we need the next step with players that maybe need to beat the ones that we have so far. I'm not sure if he used the word beat correctly there, but he's talking about squad depth, basically. He said, how close is your squad to being what you want? He said, I think that's difficult. I think there's no doubt that I want, how can I say this, a big enough, small enough squad. You know what I mean? He said it needs to be big enough and robust enough to compete in all 4 tournaments, because that's extremely important. But I can't have too many players. It's just so difficult to keep everyone happy, but it's almost impossible. And then we also want to see if we can add in enough quality. But we won't sign players we don't think can really improve the squad. I would rather wait to have the right talented players. I'm not here for the short-term fix. I want to build something that can last. So we need to think longer term. But of course, we need to compete now. That's my thought process. I think that's brave thinking from Thomas Frank, to be honest, because as we know, with managers like Nuno Espirito Santo, you go on a run of 6-8 games at Spurs without scoring or having shots on target or showing any form whatsoever, you won't be in the job after that. So, it's very, it's impressive that he's thinking long term, but also he needs to concentrate on making sure that he has results. Tottenham need to be in that top half after 6 or 8 games, I would say. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of pressure coming on Thomas Frank. He was asked about how much work he feels there is to be done at Spurs. He says, how much is going to change at the club, I'm a little bit in doubt of, but Vinay has come in and he's clearly going to be an important part. All the talks I've had with him, he comes across well. He's going to be integral to our success going forward. I have a good feeling that we have an opportunity for, I don't want to say change, but to act. Spurs won the first trophy. We're in the Champions League, but we need to build. As I said in the first press conference, we're now in 2025. 6 years ago, we were able to compete in all the competitions, and that is where we need to be now. The competition has only become more difficult. There's a lot of work we need to get to do to get up there. He was also asked about whether Dominic Solanke will be fit for the start of the Premier League season. He says, yes, that's what we're hoping for. And then Thomas Frank was asked about whether he needs a fullback. He said, he was asked whether they need to buy another fullback and whether he sees Ben Davies as an important player. He said, yeah, I think so. We have enough fullbacks. Right now we have Ben and Jed Spence. Jed was very good against Arsenal and did well against Saka. And I think Ben is a very important player. I think his leadership qualities, his character, and the way he understands the bigger picture. Everyone has an ego, but his ego isn't very big, and that's good. So you understand how much you need to help the team and the younger players. He understands when it's for the better of the club, all the actions. So as a player that can speak up and push a bit inside and they like him, he's a good guy. It makes sense what he says, and he does it in a good way. That's just respect for all the players. Some win respect by being the top player, and Ben is still, by the way, a very good player. So when you do the other things, if you think you win more respect. Sorry, that makes sense. I think this is a little, let me know what you think, but I think this is a little play by Thomas Frank to ready us for the fact that Ben Davies will be announced as club captain. And I think that gets Thomas Frank out of a bit of a hole in terms of picking the captain, because I think Christian Romero is the kind of no-brainer as the captain. However, he is still, I think, running down his contract. He's only got 2 years left and wants to go and play in La Liga. So for Thomas Frank to give the captain's armband properly to Christian Romero, and then potentially, I don't know, Real Madrid or Atletico come in late this window with a bid, or come in January with a bid and destabilize Romero as he regularly gets, let's face it, I think that would be a bad look to have him as the captain. So to have Ben Davies as club captain and then Romero maybe wears the armband when Ben Davies isn't on the pitch, that is a way of him getting out of it. Frank was asked if he's any closer to appointing a new captain after Sonny's departure, and he said this: closer, yes, but I haven't taken the decision. No decision as yet. And then finally, on today's Daily Tottenham transfer news, Alfie Devine has joined Preston North End on loan. He was actually on the subs bench at the weekend in Preston's game. And to facilitate that loan move, he signed a new contract at Spurs. But all reports are there is an option to buy for Preston North End with Alfie Devine at the end of this loan deal. So let's see what happens there. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. Please do press that subscribe button on YouTube for daily Tottenham transfer news. Do give this video a like if you haven't already. And more importantly, enjoy your Monday, guys. Let's hope there's some more Savinho news soon and it happens pretty quickly. Come on, you Spurs.